Hey guys. Welcome to the Tesla shareholder meeting. And I just want to start off by saying, hot damn, I love you guys. Yeah. We have the most awesome shareholder base. I mean, it's just incredible. Any public company, it's incredible. Wow. We've got a great sort of shareholder meeting here to recap the achievements of the company and tell you about where we're going. And it's, I think it's incredible. I think we're not just opening a new chapter for Tesla, we're starting a new book. Okay. So those of you who have been following Tesla closely understand, like you get it, you know? So like, the important thing is you get it. I mean, it's, where things are going, I think is just gonna be absolutely mind-blowing. We're obviously making great progress in solving the sustainable energy problem, with electric vehicles, with stationary storage, with solar, and then I think in terms of the value of the company, autonomy is just such a mind-blowing thing that, like I said, you guys understand, but I think most of the world does not yet understand. So, in talking to a lot of the sort of the big institutional investors, when they're often in like New York and they don't drive cars, so I'll be like, have you driven our car? Or have you tried self-driving? You know, the version 12.3, and they're like, oh no, okay. Well, you should try it. That would be a good thing to do. And if you just plot the points on the curve of how well autonomy is progressing, and just believe the curve, it's headed towards unsupervised full self-driving very quickly at an exponential pace. If you just, yeah, it's, I mean, yeah, so. It's really as simple as that. And in fact, I'd invite you to just do it personally. Just say, okay, with each release, how many miles do you drive before you have to intervene? It's like literally that simple. With each release, you'll see there's a big improvement, and it looks like an exponential. So, and it's very clear that will actually go to the point where it is actually far safer than a person driving the car. And I have some insight into the next releases, because we've got basically for every release that's on the road, we kind of see what the next generation release is and a little bit about the release after that. So we have some insight into where it's going, and it's really amazing. No question whatsoever that will far exceed human safety. Yeah, no question. So, and I think I have mentioned this, but like sometimes it's like helpful to sort of reiterate and connect some of the dots, because sometimes people wonder, well, how do you go from this big fleet to actually monetizing the fleet in an autonomous situation? And it's actually a combination of it's like Airbnb and Uber to some degree. So like there'll be some cars that Tesla owns itself, it's kind of like an Uber fashion. But then for the fleet that is owned by our customers, it will be like an Airbnb thing. You can add or subtract your car to the fleet whenever you want. So you can say, like, I'm going away for a week. At just one tap on your Tesla app, your car gets added to the fleet, and it just makes money for you while you're gone. Yeah. So you can say you can add it to the fleet for a few hours, for a few days, for a few weeks. Whenever you want it back, you can say come back, and car will come right back. And I'm highly confident that it will far exceed the value, like the revenue made by the owner of the car will far exceed the actual monthly payment. And then Tesla will obviously take a rev share on that, but most of the money will go to the owner of the car, and this is actually going to work. This is what will happen. So I mean, mark my words, this is simply a matter of time. Now, admittedly, I'm a little optimistic sometimes. You know, so I don't have complete lack of self-awareness. But if I wasn't optimistic, this wouldn't exist. This factory wouldn't exist, you know? So, you know, that's what my brother, who's awesome, he's here, just got reelected. No, sorry, this thing's... So, it's like a little anecdote. Like when we were kids in school, my brother would tell me the wrong time for the bus so that I wouldn't miss the bus. And then I'd be upset with him, like, why'd you tell me the bus was going to come earlier than it was? And he's like, well, because otherwise you'd be late for the bus. This is an actual thing that would happen. So I guess I've been sort of pathologically optimistic from birth. But that's the reason all this stuff is happening anyway. It's like I got to be somewhat pathologically optimistic, but I do deliver in the end. That's the important thing. So yeah, and it's really just going to be something else. I mentioned this before, but like for ARK Invest, I'd recommend reading the ARK Invest analysis. That's the most accurate. There may be more accurate ones, but the most accurate sort of analysis of the potential of autonomy. The most accurate that I'm aware of is Kathy Wood's ARK Invest. And if I recall correctly, they predicted somewhere over a $5 trillion valuation for Tesla, just based on vehicle autonomy, not counting Optimus. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. So I think just based on vehicle autonomy, we can 10x, more than 10x the value of the company. I believe that's what will happen. Yeah, no, it's just, what do you know? It's 4:20 p.m. I just noticed that. You know. So I think that's actually, I think that's pretty accurate. But it actually gets way crazier when you think about the Optimus robot, which is really a humanoid robot that is intended to, be able to do anything you want it to do. To be, your companion. It can be at your house. It can sort of babysit your kids. It could teach them. It could be a teacher. It can do factory stuff. I think that the ultimate ratio of, you say, how many super useful humanoid helper droids do you want? Like, who doesn't want a C-3PO, but a C-3PO plus R2-D2 plus, plus. It would be pretty awesome. I think everyone in the world is going to want one, like literally everyone. And then there will be obviously robots in industry, making stuff, and so I mean I think the ratio of humanoid robots to humans will probably be at least 2 to 1, something like that. 1 to 1 for sure. So which means like somewhere on the order of 10 billion humanoid robots, maybe 20 or 30, and so then it's like, okay, well, let's say. You kind of make, let's say the build rate is, I think the build rate will be probably something ultimately like $1 billion a year, humanoid robots, like actually. And if Tesla just has a 10% share of that, and it might be a lot more than 10%, and there's, if we make like 100 million Optimus units a year, for reference, the auto industry is roughly 100 million vehicles per year. So that, sort of similar ballpark, at least within an order of magnitude. And I think we could make one for a cost of maybe, at really high scale, of about $10,000. It's smaller, it'll be less expensive than a car. So, and I think if you sell it for $20,000 or something, this is at large scale volume, Tesla would basically make about $1 trillion of profit a year from that. So, yeah. If the price earnings multiple is, say, I don't know, 20 or 25, something like that, that would mean a $20 trillion market cap from Optimus alone. And probably 5 to 10 from autonomous vehicles. So, I think it's actually conceivable, it's within the realm of possibility for Tesla to achieve a valuation 10 times that of the most valuable company today. So when I say this is like we're starting a new book, I mean it's going to be the best book. Next level, next level. No, we need to make sure these robots are nice to us, and that's very important. Yeah. So anyway, so with that, let me get into the presentation. Blah 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 blah. Oh man. I think it might be worth us just putting a word limit on future shareholder Tesla proposals. It's like you can't have like a novel length, it's kind of like you can't have a whole novel as a Tesla proposal. So anyway, as you can see, our impact is accelerating. We're starting to make a real noticeable dent in carbon emissions. So we're really making a lot of progress towards achieving our goal of sustainability. And one of the effects of autonomy is going to be an even greater effect on carbon emissions, because I suspect that we'll go from passenger cars having about 10 hours of usage per week, about an hour and a half per day, to probably a third of the hours in the week, maybe 50, 55 hours, which means the same car will be used 5 times more often. So you need a certain amount of resources to make the car, but it'll have 5 times the usage, in my opinion. I think that's quite likely, which will be an even more dramatic impact on carbon emissions. So, we care a lot about sustainable manufacturing. Our factories are beautiful. Like, you walk around the factory, it's actually, contrary to these, like, what you read in the press, it's like a good vibe in the factory. Like, people are smiling and happy. It's like, it's nice. So yeah. We do care. We actually do care a lot at Tesla about doing the right thing, and we're not going to be perfect, but we do care a lot about doing the right thing. So our vehicles are water efficient, energy efficient. We try whenever possible to use renewables for powering the factory, and do our best to do the right thing. Our batteries are lasting a lot longer. I got too many things in my hand. Anyway, the batteries are lasting a lot longer, which is good. Safety is good in the factory. We're improving the affordability of EVs. Model Y is comparable to BMW X3, but its actual cost of ownership on a monthly basis is much lower. We were #1 in EVs globally last year, so yeah. So, yeah. So let's see. And congrats to the Tesla team on making 6 million vehicles all time. So that, I mean, the Tesla fleet is really becoming very substantial. I mean, it's going to be 7 million vehicles by the end of this year, over 7 million vehicles. So, and our factory in Fremont is currently the highest volume auto factory in North America. So, and we broke the prior production record from when it was NUMMI. So it's actually pretty wild that we have a giant car factory in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's not exactly the cheapest place to have a car factory. It's like that in the Swiss Alps or something, you know. But we still managed to make great cars at high volume, and that's a testament to the great team we've got in Fremont. So congrats to the Fremont team. And a lot of people were saying the Cybertruck is like fake; it's never going to come out. Now we're shipping a lot of Cybertrucks. We hit a weekly record of 1,300. And I think that with the Cybertruck, it really is something special. Like, people sometimes have like different opinions on the Cybertruck, but if you really want to know if something is cool, if it's a great product, like show it to a kid, okay? Like no filter, okay? The kid's got like no filter, like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, something like that, or even 3-year-old, and say, which car do you like? Cybertruck. So it's like, that's how you know. It's finally something that it just looks like the future. And it drives so well. It's comfortable. It's just a fantastic product. I think it's our best product, and it's a lot of innovation. It's got a 48 volts low voltage system. Finally, instead of 12 volts, 800 volt drivetrain, the world's biggest castings. It's bulletproof. All the cool things. Can outpull a F350 diesel, which is a very impressive truck, and it can it can do a quarter mile faster than a Porsche 911 while towing a Porsche 911. So that's insane. So yeah. And if you think about it, like how often do companies make products that move your heart, that are really special? It's so rare, and I think this is one of them. So yeah. And we launched the upgraded 3, which is actually a fantastic car. I recommend trying it out. It's really a great car. And it's only $216 after gas savings, like total cost of ownership. It's basically $200 and something when compared to a gasoline car, a similar gasoline car. So it's really a great deal and a fun car. And the performance, Model 3 performance is, well, it's like, faster than a Porsche 911. It's just a great car. So, yeah. So, yeah. And of course, Model Y became the best-selling vehicle globally. And this is something that we predicted. So, you know, I think I said in like 2022, Model Y would be the biggest car in the world by dollar volume sales, and at 2023 it would be the biggest in unit volume, and it was. And again, this year it will be the best-selling car on Earth. So, yeah. Obviously we've got the Tesla Semi. You know, we're in low volume production of the Tesla Semi, and just last week I approved the plans for volume production of the Tesla Semi. So we're going to make a lot of semi-trucks. We're going to start off with, yeah, it's something, I think it'll actually move the needle financially. It's not like it's not a small thing. And the thing about like commercial vehicles is that companies that use them are super objective. It's not like, it's actually, I mean, obviously we're going to make it have cool style and be an awesome car, but for commercial vehicles, the companies that make the buying decisions, they just look at it and say, like, what are the numbers? Like, is this cost less to transport or cost more to transport than say, a diesel truck? And the thing is that the economics are much better than a diesel truck. It's kind of basically a no-brainer. If you're a transport company, you don't use the Tesla electric Semi, you're just losing money. Why would you do that? Do you not like money? Okay. But if you do like money, then I recommend using the Tesla Semi. And so I think this is really going to actually sell at a scale that people will be surprised at, and will actually move the needle financially and do a lot of good, and also for CO2 and sustainability, because semis are driven all the time. Actually, even at much smaller numbers, they have a very big effect on total carbon emissions solved. So obviously we've got some new products that we're working on under the covers, and I think these are I think these are going to be pretty special. So you know, some of them I think people maybe at first may think, oh, it's not going to be that amazing, but just wait, it will be. So. So our supercharger network is continuing to grow. You know, rumors of the death of the supercharger are greatly exaggerated. We are, in fact, continuing to grow the supercharger network significantly. In fact, this year, I think we'll deploy more superchargers this year that are actually working than the rest of industry combined. Just FYI. So now we are going to be more careful about, like, you know, the capital efficiency of where we deploy superchargers. But for sure, any place that has congestion, any sort of missing parts of the map that we're missing, we're going to put the superchargers there. So even for the remainder of the year, we expect to spend about $500 million on supercharger deployment. So it's very significant, and it'd be a well-spent $500 million. So this is, you know, it's a lot. So, and this is actually not showing a bunch of new markets that will be opening up later this year and next. So we're obviously we want Tesla to be worldwide, and there's still a lot of countries that we, you know, have 0 to very few Teslas, and we obviously we want Tesla everywhere. So there are a lot of new markets that we're going to open up later this year and next. We're also opening the superchargers to other companies with the that's the adapter to the old somewhat clunky connector. But our goal is to be helpful to other car companies. So any other car companies that are going electric, we do want to be helpful to them with our supercharger network. So we're providing them with adapters and enabling them to have access to the Tesla supercharging network because we think it's better to do that than to create a walled garden that inhibits EV growth. Oops, there was a bit of latency here. And we're also innovating a lot in battery production with the 4680 that's built right here. It's a hard problem, you know. Like there are entire companies that just make battery cells. That's all they do. But we're making good progress. Like all the Cybertrucks that you see use the Tesla 4680 cell. We have a clear path to the 4680 being, we think, probably the most competitive cell from a manufacturing efficiency standpoint. And so it is a hard problem, I have to say. There's quite a lot of brain damage required to be good at cell manufacturing. It's like a brain damage high. But I think it does give Tesla resilience in the face of if there are changes in the, I don't know, geopolitical situation somehow. But it's good to have some independence in cell manufacturing. Yeah, and we're making steady progress, and we also have the cathode refinery, which you can see behind the main factory. So you can sort of see it in the picture there. That's a cathode refinery, and then we've got the lithium refinery in South Texas. And so we're just making sure we've kind of got the pieces of the puzzle. I mean, if you were to look at sort of a video of how Tesla does, say, cathode and lithium refining and how the rest of industry does it, it's night and day. I mean, you can sort of eat off the floor in the Tesla refinery, and I would not recommend doing so in the others. So, you know, we're definitely going very, very vertical here. But I think it's a wise investment that will pay off more than people realize. So. I don't think this thing's working. So this year, we're also on track to complete a massive number of energy deployments. So that is a gigantic increase in deployment capability. We seem to be tracking to sort of a 200% to 300% year-over-year growth in energy storage deployment in stationary pack. So it's giant. And the limiting factor really is being able to build more megapacks and build more Powerwalls. So we're ramping up production of the Powerwall 3, which is really a game changer for at the personal level. The Powerwall 3, it usually takes about 3 iterations of any given technology to really, for it to be something where it's like, okay, now we're really hitting the sweet spot. So Powerwall 3 is like an epic product. The Megapack is also, I'd call it sort of iteration 2 of the Megapack is also an epic product. With the Megapack 3, which is, I don't know, probably a couple years away, we'll start actually absorbing more and more of the substation of the sort of power electronics. So, because I sort of think you want to get to the point with the Megapack where you can literally just take the high voltage power lines and plug them in. There's no substation. We just plug them in. Just drop them down and drop it down and plug it in. And now it works. Which is like mind blowing for the utility industry, by the way. Like, they're like, what? Yeah, you just plug the wires in and it'll work. For very high voltage. So that I think is actually going to be a major. So this is anyway. So yeah, this is great. excellent work by the energy storage team. Services and other are also looking good, so we're actually now making money on the services and other stuff. So this is kind of a big deal. Great, yeah. So let's see. Yeah, and Tesla's obviously way more than a car company. We do a lot of software at Tesla. About, I don't know, roughly half the, or a very huge percentage of the engineering we do is actually software engineering. So Tesla's, I'd say, as much a software company as it is a hardware company. This is a very big deal because car companies are not software companies normally. So this matters a lot. So things like our orbiter software for energy storage, all of the software that controls the cars, the megapacks, the power walls, the solar, obviously for AI and full self-driving are a big deal, insurance, service and collision. Tesla also writes a lot of software internally that helps, like we call the Tesla operating system internally, that is head and shoulders above what any other company has. I think probably better than any Fortune 500 company. The Tesla internal software is just way better. So it's just far more than what people normally think of as a car company. And Tesla is also the leader in real-world AI. So there's really, this is a big deal. Like Tesla is ahead of Google, Meta, OpenAI, anyone on real-world software, actually taking in video and making decisions based on video. No one is even close. And it's getting better, I say, with each passing month, if not each passing week. So, yeah. And it's also worth noting that Tesla is actually pretty good at chip design. So the AI inference chip that was designed by Tesla that's in cars, we had sort of our hardware 3 AI inference cars made over the past year have the hardware 4. We've just completed design on hardware 5, which we're now calling AI 5, because it's really is. There still actually is not a chip from NVIDIA or from, and I have a lot of respect for NVIDIA, from any company that we would prefer to put in our car that is better than what we have in the car. So, we started from scratch in chip design, just as we started from scratch in AI software, and have the best real-world AI software and the best AI inference chip in the world from nothing. So this is, a big deal. And the capability of the chips in the car is dramatic. Like, I mean, right now, all the cars are actually training. Like we have hardware 4 run hardware 3 in emulation mode. So we'll continue to make significant progress on hardware 3, but later this year we'll actually bifurcate, continue working on hardware 3, so on training on hardware 3, but then do separate training on hardware 4. That'll be the sort of training cluster that we're building at the south side of the Gigafactory, and that'll be dedicated hardware 4 video and inference. And so the hardware 4 has cameras that have about 4 or 5 times better resolution, and depending on how you count the sort of hardware 4, it's about anywhere from 3 to 8 times better than hardware 3. So, but everything you're seeing thus far is just hardware 3, and we still have a long way to go before we reach the limits of hardware 3. So hardware 3, I think, will do amazing things, but hardware 4, I think, will probably do about 5 times better. Then hardware 5, which comes out in about 18 months or so, is 10 times more capable than hardware 4. It's like so if you know NVIDIA hardware, it's sort of a B200 class computer. You know, that's like this. So what we'll just progressively do is improve how many nines of reliability the car gets. And then of course that will go into Optimus as well. So the same chip will go into hardware 4 will go into is an Optimus. Hardware 5, AI 5, which we're calling switching from hardware 5 to AI 5, will be in Optimus and in all cars in about 18 months. And it's really just a staggering amount of compute, and it's very power efficient compute. So it's got to be, because if you're in a mobile application like a humanoid robot or a car, you can't just be sucking down 10 kilowatts, like you can in a data center. So you've got to be very power efficient. So the sort of hardware 3 and 4 are only a few hundred watts. Yeah, this is hard. Now, hardware 5 will be able to go probably up to about 700 or 800 watts, but it'll power fluctuate contingent upon the complexity of the scene that it is in. So if it is in a parking lot stationary, it's like don't have to think very much, just like a person. Like if you're in a complicated traffic scenario, you've got to think a lot more than if you're just cruising along, on an empty road. But something that I think is potentially interesting down the road is, like at some point, the Tesla fleet, I think, will probably be, over 100 million vehicles. And if each vehicle has a kilowatt of efficient inference compute, I think there's sort of an Amazon Web Services, AWS type opportunity, because if you've got 100 million vehicles with a kilowatt of efficient inference compute, you've got 100 gigawatts of compute. Like 100 gigawatts of compute is a lot, and it's distributed all over the world. So when the car is not in autonomous mode, which I think probably is, doing Robotaxi work maybe 50, 60 hours a week, but about 100 hours a week, it's not, it's probably stationary. So there's 100 hours of 100 gigawatts of inference compute, which I think we should use. Why not? When people looked at Amazon, which started out obviously as an online bookseller, and it's done, has grown to be like this incredible place where you can buy anything, and then Amazon Web Services, like, well, they got all these computers that only really see peak usage sometimes, but what are they going to do when it's not peak usage? And sometimes the Amazon servers are down like 10%. So that's when they said, well, let's do Amazon Web Services. And then Amazon Web Services became more valuable than the entire rest of Amazon. And I think there's some kind of opportunity there that's pretty significant for Tesla down the road. Again, that's really, nobody's really factoring that in. But I think that actually will be quite significant. We also are no longer compute constrained for training. So I check in with the team. It's like, is there anything we could do to improve the pace of progress with respect to training and inference? And currently that is not the limiting factor. In fact, the limiting factor right now is that the amount of miles between interventions is so long that it takes quite a while to figure out which version is better than the other version, because none of them are requiring any interventions. So it's like, if you start getting to like thousands of miles between interventions, or you're like 10,000 miles to get an intervention, then the average person only drives about 10,000 miles in a year. And if it's in an urban environment, and the average speed is 20 miles an hour, I mean, so our professional test drivers get pretty bored, frankly. You know, they're like, okay, I drove all week, and there was no intervention. Like the highlight of the week would be like, yes, an intervention, finally. It's like getting to that point. So this is where actually having a giant fleet is extremely important, because we can deploy a new FSD model and run it in shadow mode and see how well it performs. Compare how the human drives the car versus the new self-driving build, and then analyze that delta in shadow mode, like the shadow knows, or doesn't know, as the case may be, and then be able to assess by getting billions of miles very quickly with the giant fleet. Like that, basically, that data engine is incredibly helpful. Like actually, it's not possible to solve the self-driving problem without having millions of vehicles on the road. So, so that's actually is like figuring out clever ways to test how good the next FSD build is actually the limiting factor right now. And then of course, like I said, we are building another training data center right here, which will be dedicated to hardware 4 training. So we'll bifurcate hardware 3 and hardware 4 training later this year. We'll keep improving hardware 3, but we're going to uncork the full capability of hardware 4 as well. So, yeah. And I think most people here have tried out version 12. We did say like unsupervised full self-driving would be version 12. So we are actually just keeping the version arbitrarily at 12, and then like calling it 12.4, 12.3, 12.4, 12.5. But it's actually really like version 13, version 14. But anyway, this is an arbitrary designation. So 12.4 is actually like a whole different version than 12.3, and 12.5 is a whole different version than 12.4. So you'll see really giant improvements, I think sometimes factor of 10 improvements between successive versions. And then, as I mentioned, the way it'll work for the existing fleet is you'll be able to add or subtract your car to the fleet as you'd like. And there will also be Tesla-owned cars. So it'll be a combination of like Uber plus Airbnb. But it'll be pretty wild that there'll be a software update, and then the whole fleet suddenly becomes accessible. It's like suddenly you've got 7 million, 10 million cars that can, ultimately tens of millions of cars that can do autonomous driving, and instead of being used 10 hours a week, it can be used 50 or 60 hours a week. So it's pretty wild to just be in Palo Alto with a bunch of cubes, and then a humanoid robot just walks past. We've made a massive amount of progress with Optimus in a short period of time, from someone pretending to be a robot dancing in a suit, to a pretty hodgepodgey robot, to a robot that is actually doing useful tasks in the factory today. So we have 2 Optimus robots in our Fremont factory that are doing basically this task, which is taking cells off the end of the line and placing them in a shipping container. And yeah, we actually have quite a few of these cruising around our offices in Palo Alto. So there's, and I think we've got kind of like one major hardware revision, which should be done by end of this year or early next, and then we'll move into a limited production next year of Optimus. Limited production for use in our factories, where we'll test out the product, kind of, as I say, sort eat our own dog food or whatever the electronic equivalent of that is. But I think like next year, my prediction is next year we'll have over 1,000, maybe a few thousand Optimus robots working at Tesla. And things are going to scale up very rapidly from there. So we'll iron out the bugs. Like the degree of autonomy will be radically better. You'll just literally be able to talk to it and say, please do this task, or I'm going to show you something. Now do the thing that I'm showing you. Get to the point where it can watch a video of something like a person and then learn just by looking at that video and do that task. So, yeah. So really it's going to be quite something. And I'm confident of the prediction that there will be more, like the ratio of humanoid robots to humans will be greater than 1 to 1. So that there'll be, more than 10 billion humanoid robots in the world, probably 20 or more. And Tesla is going to be by far the leader in that. You're seeing a lot of robot startups, but I think it's actually very challenging to do Optimus as a robot startup, because what we found to make Optimus work, we've had to design from first principles, from scratch, every part of the robot. So the motor, the gearbox, the sensors, the power electronics, the communication system, everything had to be done from scratch. We found that there's basically nothing. There's no supply chain. So even though there are many electric motors made in the world, there's no supply chain for the types of motors and sensors and gearboxes that are needed for a humanoid robot. What you're seeing here is our current generation hand and arm, but our next which has 11 degrees of freedom. Our next generation has 22 degrees of freedom. It will be able to play the piano. So it's really like, wow. Now, of course, like I said, we need to make sure we don't have the Terminator scenario. That's very important. Safety of the humanoid robot will be very important. But because it requires so much ground-up designing every motor, gearbox, sensor, power electronics from scratch, it's very hard for a startup to, if not impossible, for a startup to replicate that. But at Tesla, we have the world's best electrical engineering. I think we've got the world's best mechanical engineering for gearboxes and for electric motors, power electronics. We have the resources to do that. It applies quite well. And then you also have to have the brain. You need a power-efficient inference computer, which we've got for the car, and we'll be using an Optimus. You need AI. You need to be the best in real-world AI, and Tesla's the best in real-world AI. So you need all of these. You need a very strong hand of cards in order to make a compelling robot. And then you also need to be very good at scale manufacturing. So in order to have the robot not cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars, in order to make it cost like $10,000 or $20,000, you actually need to design for manufacturing and be very good at manufacturing. In my experience, prototypes are easy compared to volume manufacturing. Prototypes are easy, production is hard, relatively speaking. So Tesla has the production capability, it has the engineering capability, and it has the AI hardware and software capability. And even the most optimistic estimates that I've seen for Optimus, the optimist, I think undercount the magnitude of what this robot will be able to do. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, I agree with the ARK Invest analysis that autonomous transport is call it sort of a $5 to $7 trillion market cap situation. Optimus, I think, is a 25, literally $25 trillion market cap situation. So. Now, I don't want to trivialize what's necessary to get there. I mean, it's an immense amount of work that is required to get there, like super difficult. But we are moving very fast down that road, and we're going to make it happen. So, thank you. I guess with that, we can go to Q&A. Sorry? Yeah. I guess we've got mics lined up. Dive for the mic.
Hey, Elon. Last year, I thanked you for making the world a better place for my son to live in. And I wasn't clear. In particular, I was referring to what you've done for the First Amendment and our rights.
Thank you.
History will not forget it, and the sacrifices you made and the risks you took will pay off and have paid off.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I very much appreciate that. I think you have to say, like, why was the First Amendment so important? Is because, people came here from places where if they spoke their mind, they'd be put in prison or killed, or just shut out from society, ostracized. So freedom of speech is absolutely fundamental to a good future. And yeah, that's the reason for acquiring Twitter and trying to just making it a free speech platform. I think it was very important to just the future of civilization. So, thank you.
Hey, Elon. My name's Ronnie. I'm on your right side. How's it going? Hey. I work for Tesla sales in Orland Park, Illinois, and I was always wondering, do you think Tesla could ever move forward towards bundling software as like a package to, possibly increase take rate for FSD, maybe bundle it with premium connectivity and future software options?
I think we definitely want to encourage people to try FSD, and one of the things that I think probably makes sense is that when we have a significant improvement, every time we have a significant improvement in FSD, give all customers a 2-week free trial. So like, hey, we've made an improvement to FSD, try it for another 2 weeks. With 12.4, we finally get rid of the steering wheel nag, which I know is driving people crazy. Yeah. Thank heaven for small mercies. Even just something like that, not having the steering wheel nag, and obviously having a far lower intervention count, far more miles between interventions. So I think keep sort of offering people free trials of FSD every time we make a significant improvement. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. it's when you hear the speakers, you're like, ears don't work,
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
2 questions, actually. First, after $56 billion, you can afford to probably take your kids to Disneyland now. Is that where you're going?
Well, I mean, by the way, it is worth emphasizing that it's Tesla stock that I have to own for 5 years. So, it's not possible to it's not actually cash, and I can't cut and run, nor would I want to. I've actually been to Disneyland, Disney World many times with kids. It's a little tough for me to go these days without causing a ruckus. Maybe I should just wear a Mickey Mouse outfit and just go and, pretend I'm like one of the people.
So as
Park.
we work on autonomy and we're getting to that threshold where things are getting to a seriously advanced level, eventually there are going to be some harsh consequences. It's part of breaking through, right? And I'm just curious where your mind is at on that, and have you thought about, some of those early consequences that we're unfortunately going to have in order to have a better, safer future? I'm just wondering.
You mean like scary robots or what?
No, in the cars with full self-driving.
Okay.
Like we've seen some companies that there's been some unfortunate mishaps, and they've just straight up like closed shop, and I know that's not the plan, but those are real consequences of developing this technology, and I'm just wondering where your mind is at on that.
Yeah, well, we do try to be very careful with the deployment of FSD, and we do have a lot of cars. So what, inevitably, when there are a lot of cars and you've got billions of miles, you do have the law of large numbers, where there's a small chance of something bad happening, but when you look at the sort of safety per mile, because we've got a lot of miles, it's very clear that the safety per mile is better than human driving. So. So when we can show that to regulators and obviously make our case to the public and say, actually, human driving is not perfect. There's a person killed roughly every 80 million miles. So I think 35, 40,000 people are killed every year in the U.S. from auto accidents. What matters is are we making that number smaller? And as long as we're making that number smaller, we're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Hey, Elon, this is Bikash. I have one question.
Sure.
So we know
Sorry,
that we love you all. We love from our bottom of the heart. And we love you so much, Elon.
Thank you.
My question
Love you
is, my question is we all know Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world one day.
Yeah.
We just want to know if you have any prediction when and what is the inflection point. When we can say this is the inflection point, is it solving the FSD, or is it like Optimus on ground will be the point from your perspective?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think it's worth looking at the ARK Invest analysis. I think that is the most accurate analysis. Their prediction is, I think, $5 to $7 trillion by 2029. Market cap. So more than 10 times what things are today in 5 years. I think that is accurate.
Thank you. Thank you, Elon.
All right.
Hey, Elon.
Hey.
Hey, huge fan, and I think history will show that you've had a profound impact on humanity. So I think that's
Thanks.
just given. And just a couple of questions, I guess. I fixed my Tesla addiction by putting cars on Turo, and I found that about half my renters is the first time they're driving a Tesla, and then the other half really want to buy one after they've tried it out. So I guess a couple questions. When could we expect maybe the referral program to come back, if it would come back? And
Sure.
Could we also get a passenger van, like a 12-passenger van, sometime soonish?
I'll add that to my list. So the referral program, I think we'll re-examine the referral program probably next quarter, it is very important to sort of look at what is the fully considered cost of a Tesla. So if with the referral program, it effectively increases the price of the car. So, is the price increase, what is better for the end customer? A slight price increase because of the referral program or not? But I think we'll re-examine that, I think, in next quarter and see if it makes sense. I think some kind of referral program does make sense. But I think for a lot of people, by far the biggest thing we see is that people just can't afford the car. That's the biggest thing. That's the limiter on demand. You can imagine in the limit if there was, say, you know, an 18, like if Model Y cost like less than $20,000, it would sell like probably 5 million units. Like, it would be insane. So now that's not feasible, you know, today, but I think working on figuring out ways to make more affordable vehicles is really the game changer. Like for most people, it is really not a question of whether they want a Tesla. They do want a Tesla. They simply do not have enough money to afford one. So we have to make it affordable. That's essential. Thank you.
Hey, Elon. I just want to introduce myself. My name's Hamza. First off, thank you for introducing me to Anrabek. He and I are now like close thanks to you, and I moved to Austin thanks to you. So my question is basically for FSD transfer, I think that should be something that should be ongoing. I think not only on the benefit of you for getting more people on the fleet and getting, you know, statistics and info, but also as Tesla owners, it makes us want to get the next model and transfer over. You know, for instance, the thing that's been holding me back is wanting to wait for the FSD transfer again. So is there a reason why you haven't implemented that for like ongoing time?
It is pretty complex for us to do this. It sort of it adds a fair bit of complexity to the sales process. Yeah, and it is tough because we've got to earn revenue somehow. So, you know, transfer is tough. But we sorry? One more quarter. Okay, one more quarter. All right, you got it. One more quarter. All right. So yeah. All right.
Oh, Elon, thank you for hosting us. If you can see me, I'm trembling uncontrollably. I really look up to you, shareholder, consumer. You know, tripled my humble, tiny little portion of your shares the last 2 days. Just being engaged, knowing we're coming here, and appreciate you hosting up shareholders, and it just means so much to us.
You're welcome.
You're an absolute idol. This question comes because I care about you as a human being, but in the context of being a shareholder, unlocking these values of Optimus, we need you. And just with all the global uncertainty, you're so high profile, just want to make sure you're doing everything to take care of yourself, safety, and health for the future of the company. I say that because I care about you as a person, but since this is a shareholder meeting, in the spirit of shareholder value.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind sentiments. Yeah, I think I probably need to like work out, and you know, and like not get assassinated or something. You know, I mean it is getting a little crazy these days. You know, like to first approximation, the probability that a homicidal maniac will try to kill you is proportionate to how many homicidal maniacs hear your name. Okay. So they hear my name a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm on the list, you know? So, yeah, so we actually did have 2 homicidal maniacs in the last roughly 7 months come to aspirationally try to kill me and a bunch of other people. So it's not just me. And there wasn't like an actual issue that they articulated. They were just, you know, in the homicidal maniac career. So, so I do need to be kind of careful. Which is not great because it like forces me to be a bit more sort of standoffish, you know, and you know, like so now like I've like stopped signing things because just you know something. Because like that would be a sure way to like homicidal maniac. I'll just have to sign something and then shoot him, type of thing. So then I you know, I have to be like more standoffish and stuff, which I prefer not to be, but it seems wise. Like think of like John Lennon, who was like singing about like, hey, can't we all just be nice to each other? And then he got shot, you know, by one of his fans. You're like, okay, we'll try to avoid that. So. Anyway, I appreciate the kind sentiments. I will endeavor to stay alive and keep And yeah. So. All right.
Hi, Elon. I was reading an article the other day. Is Tesla still have somewhere in the product timeline a home HVAC system in the works?
A home interact system. We do not have a home interact system that I'm aware of. No, we do not one.
HVAC system.
Oh, HVAC. Oh, yeah. HVAC. Yeah, sure. Yeah, in the list of things that would be like more useful than, or like it would be nice to do, would be a great HVAC system that is very power efficient. You know, has like a built-in HEPA filter, and like take a lot of the things that we've learned in the car and apply that to home HVAC. Because I actually, maybe there is a great home HVAC system out there, but I haven't found it, which is pretty wild. And just building in the filtration system, and you know, being able to sort of maybe also control humidity somewhat, and like I said, be super efficient and quiet, which are all things that we do in the car. That would be a pretty sweet thing to do. You know, maybe we can combine that with the Powerwall or something. On the list of things to do, that is not super high, but it would be cool to do that one day. Yeah.
Hi, Elon. This is Sandeep. I just want to thank you for making the Cybertruck.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, kids
Yeah.
love it. Really,
Yeah,
my
kids
4
love
and
it.
6-year-old, they love it.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Kids, it's like amazing. It's like
I went to Disney last week. Nobody looks at Disney. Everybody looks at Cybertruck.
yeah.
There's a funny story, if you may allow. So we were preparing my daughter. We went to Destin, and then from there we were driving to Disney, and then we were preparing my daughter to. She's 4 years to just get used to the lines, and you know you have to have a lot of patience to get in the line. And she's like, Dada, why don't we just say we'll show you our Cybertruck and then we'll cut the lines? I mean, she got used to it because we were
Sure.
driving superchargers, and then everybody was coming over, taking pictures.
Sure.
It's a funny story, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have a request. Would you allow 6-year-old to tour the factory maybe someday in the future? Right now, it's capped
Sure.
at 12 years.
Okay.
Even though we have referral rewards, it's capped at 12 years. Would you allow the kids
Yeah.
to tour the factory? Maybe they can see the robots.
Sure.
If we make an event or something like that.
Yeah, maybe we could have like we're just like worried about kid safety and stuff, you know, in case a kid like goes running off into like the robot cell or something. But yeah, we could I think lower maybe have like a more limited tour that's, you know, enables younger kids to go. Sure, we'll do that. All right. See. Yeah. Okay.
Donald Trump has been a big critic of electric vehicles. But last week, he surprised us by saying he's a big fan of Tesla and a big fan of you.
Yeah.
What did you tell him?
Well, you know, I can be persuasive. So, yeah. Actually, I don't exactly know why he. It's a good question. I mean, you know, I have had some conversations with him, and he does call me out of the blue for no reason. I don't know why, but he does, and it's like he's very nice when he calls, and you know, and I was like, you know, electric cars I think are pretty good for the future. America's the leader in electric cars. You know, buy America and stuff, and. And I think he actually, a lot of his friends now have Teslas, and they will love it, and he's a huge fan of the Cybertruck. So I think those may be contributing factors. You know? So.
Hey, Elon, on your right.
Sorry, yeah.
My name's Keanu, a longtime fan of your brand and company and everything. I'm wondering, when you take the driver out of the seat for the driverless car, how do you plan to handle interventions, which I'm sure will happen at some rate, even if they're rare?
Yeah, so clearly we want to make sure that if there's no driver in the car, the probability of a severe intervention is extremely low. We want to make sure that the car is extremely cautious around vulnerable road users like cyclists or pedestrians. So really, we'd want the probability of hurting a pedestrian or cyclist to be incredibly low, like way lower than someone driving a car. Now, then there are interventions that happen where the car is simply like, I don't know, gets stuck down a one-way street where with a like crazy construction situation. But in which case it'll basically phone home and say, "Help! I'm stuck." And then I think we can probably solve a lot of these things just by, remoting into the car and kind of like steering it like a giant RC car. That's what I'm guessing. That's what I think we'll do. Thank you.
Hey, Elon, Anwar Bek from Kazakhstan. Thanks for installing superchargers. I just want to acknowledge Tesla, Boomer Mama, and Sawyer Merritt for all the efforts that they did to organize the.
Yeah.
There's an after party to celebrate at Luster Pearl East. If you guys want to come and celebrate all the efforts for the community. Congratulations, Elon.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for hosting today, Elon. It's about 4 years since you did Battery Day and drew out those very ambitious targets of getting to 1 terawatt-hour of batteries. And earlier in your presentation, you alluded to the great difficulty of scaling up this new technology. I think as shareholders, we're most interested, can you tell us a little bit more, because in terms of affordability, which you also mentioned as this huge burden, these 4680s get manufacturing credits and also on the consumer side get large credits as well. If you could scale that so that we could produce full level of Cybertrucks and also start to put them back in the Y and the 3, potentially it would greatly improve affordability and be great in terms of scale.
Sure. So achieving affordability is actually, at this point, more about the rest of the car than it is actually about the battery pack. So the price per kilowatt hour of cells from suppliers has dropped dramatically. So there was a massive spike for a few years in the cost of lithium-ion cells from suppliers because every car manufacturer put in gigantic orders for battery packs, like giant orders. So the price of lithium and like all the raw materials and the battery cells went crazy. It doubled. Like the price of cells doubled. Price of lithium, I think, went up at almost like five-fold or like 500%. Like went up crazy numbers. So since then, the demand, like suppliers, battery cell suppliers, have increased their supply, and the orders from other car manufacturers have declined. So I mean, it is worth noting that it's tough sledding out there for EVs. GM announced, I think, a 50% reduction recently in their EVs. Ford announced reductions. I think almost every manufacturer has announced reductions in their electric vehicle plans. Now Tesla, we're going to increase, but it is not an easy market. But to get the cost of the car down, it's really the battery pack is a piece of the puzzle, but it's really everything else too. So I really would describe like we're making a car more affordable. It's like Game of Thrones, but pennies. Game of pennies. So there's, quote to first approximation, 10,000 unique items in a car, and if each one costs $5, or then you've got a $50,000 car. So to actually get the cost of the car down, you've got to chisel away pennies, and to get the 10,000 items to be, $3 instead of $5. That's kind of what it amounts to. Now, with respect to our own cell production, we do see a path to cost parity by the end of this year. A very difficult path to cost parity. But currently, our 4680s cost more than our suppliers. Now, they cost more than the suppliers today, but they cost less than the suppliers a year ago. So you know, like there's a bit of a feast-famine thing with battery cell supply. It's kind of like for DRAM chips. You know, like the DRAM industry goes from like, you know, oversupply to undersupply. The price of DRAM changes like crazy. It's kind of like that for cells. But we expect to achieve cost parity with even the much lower supplier cell price today by the end of the year. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Musk. I've been a long-term investor since 2012.
Great. Wow.
And I
That's
voted
awesome.
for your compensation package in 2018 and again
Thank you.
This year. And shout out to Tesla Boomer Mama, Alexandra. I had the privilege to talk to you in 2013 briefly, and you spoke about the truck, which became the Cybertruck. You're a man of your word. I have friends all over the world, in Asia, Canada, and Europe, and I know the Cybertruck's been on tour. How's been the reception for the Cybertruck, and when will it be, or is it possible to sell, and when will it be sold internationally?
I think probably, you know, we might be able to certify it for other markets sometime next year. But like for sure this year, it's just North America. We did design the car to North American requirements because if you start going with the superset of all international requirements, it forces a lot of constraints on Cybertruck that would make the product frankly worse. So I think we'll need to make a special version that is, for example, China compliant or Europe compliant. But it really doesn't make sense to add that complexity until we've achieved higher volume production on the Cybertruck. There's still a lot of work to do on cost down for the Cybertruck. You know, I generally would say like the level of difficulty of going from, say, prototype, you go from prototype to production, it's 100 times harder to go from prototype to production is 100 times harder. And then once you reach production, to improve the price by 20%, like the cost of goods by 20%, is harder than reaching production in the first place. Like, it's mega pain. It's like, you know, and to be frank, it's not the funnest job in the world, you know. Like chiseling pennies is not, it's like washing the dishes, frankly. You know, like wash a lot of dishes here. Like it's super fun to make prototypes. That's really fun, and it's kind of cool to get, it's pretty cool to get the production going. Then the cost grind is a grind. That is like, you know, it's hard work. You know, there's some reward to it. Like there's sort of a reward to washing the dishes, I guess. You have clean dishes. But that is tough. So that's real hard work.
I just have to say that there's been a really big reception. Like I have friends that, you know, message me and said they love the Cybertruck design, and it's definitely a head turner. So. Oh
yeah, I think from a demand standpoint, we would have plenty of demand in other parts of the world for Cybertruck, no question. Like wherever it goes, anywhere in the world, it gets a massive crowd. So it's not a demand thing. It's really, we've got to reach volume production, go through the cost grind. It would be difficult for me to overstate the difficulty in the cost grind. It's really intense. And then we've got to recertify the car, which includes making some design changes to be compliant in other markets. All right.
Good afternoon, Elon.
Hey.
I like your shoes. I don't know if everybody else can see them.
Yeah, Cybertruck.
Out there. Cybertruck, yeah. My question was, in regards to the Foundation series, do you guys have a certain number that you are planning on making, or a timeline of when the non-Foundation series are going to come out?
Yeah, we'll start making we'll end the Foundation series actually pretty soon, and the non-Foundation series sometime next quarter. Yeah.
Hi, Elon. Thank you for delivering shareholder value. and congrats on your pay package.
Thank you.
And I'm Michael. I ask a lot of questions on the quarterly investor calls. And I wanted to ask you, can you give me a little bit more color on the neural net scaling laws that you're seeing as you're training FSD? Like how much data, how much more inference compute, how much more training compute do you need for each successive 9 in reliability of the full self-driving software? And how much data are you currently collecting? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, that's something that we go through really every week at Tesla. I spend a lot of time with the Tesla AI team, and you know, I think probably like a huge portion of. I mean, it's really like a big part of my job is like, okay, we need to get the car to drive itself. You know, yeah, you need to solve things on a chip level for inference, for training, for software. There's also massive data storage challenges because you've got petabytes of video coming in. And even for say, for a big NVIDIA cluster, it's actually really hard to make a big NVIDIA cluster actually work in training. It doesn't just open the box and plug it in. It's not like that at all. It's like massive effort required to get a big training cluster to operate at all and then operate with high uptime. So, I mean, with respect to like the various versions that we're seeing, like you go from version 12.3. Well, like if you just ignore the 12 and think of it like 3, 4, 5, 6, that's actually the way to think about it. Ignore the 12 part and just call it like version 3, version 4, version 5. That's version 6. That's how to think about it. Between each one, there's anywhere from, I don't know, a minimum of a doubling of improvement to, in some cases, I think a 5 to 10-fold improvement. You know, especially as we eliminate sort of, say, I think we're close to eliminating almost all static object collisions. So, you know, like curves and medians, and like we're pretty close to having it to have almost zero static object collisions. So once you get to zero static object, now you have a gigantic improvement in miles between intervention. Then you get into classes of dynamic objects that are different classes, and different things can get obviously very complicated if you've got a complex intersection with traffic lights all over the place, and like somebody bumped the one traffic light and now it's pointing in the wrong direction, or the traffic light's broken, and there's someone who is not obeying the traffic laws because they're just running a red, or they got confused about the traffic light. So you get into these very complex situations that are much harder to solve. So, and then like as I was saying earlier, it actually gets as the system gets better, it gets harder to figure out which AI model is better. Like because now, you know, like, okay, it's thousands of miles between intervention. How do we, as quickly as possible, figure out which AI model is better? And when you make these different AI models, they're obviously not like super deterministic. So you could have a new model that eliminates one problem, but creates another problem. So we're trying to solve this by a combination of simulation, uploading models, having them run in shadow mode. So it's actually kind of helpful that not everyone has full self-driving, because we can see, we can run it in shadow mode and see what would this new model have done compared to what the user did. So since we've got millions of cars that we can do this with, that gives us a delta between what the AI model predicted would do and the user would do. And if you kind of sum up the errors between them, you can see, oh, there was a bigger error stack from this model versus that model when you uploaded them into, we each uploaded them into 100,000 cars. But that's the biggest limiter right now. It's not training, it's not data. It's actually testing the AI models, and then figuring out clever ways to figure out if a new model is better or not. Like we know, like there are sort of particular intersections that are difficult, and so if we just like all the models will be great at like driving on a well-painted road with no intersection. They'll all be great at that, but will they be great at the complicated? So we've identified several thousand intersections in the United States where we'll actually take the new model and try the car in those very difficult intersections, like the sort of the famous like Chuck's left turn. Yeah. So if you imagine Chuck's left turn, hey Chuck. I wonder what the neighbors think. But there's many such complicated traffic situations in the country. So we've identified several thousand, which we then send cars to those locations to compare the models. And then, as I mentioned, we have yet to uncork any of the ability of hardware 4, which we'll do later this year. So I think the exponential rate of improvement of miles between intervention will continue and will accelerate. Yeah. So.
Hey, Elon. I was wondering if, as you've called a Tesla basically a robot with wheels, and so I'm wondering, kind of as that logic transfers over to Optimus, what kind of will Tesla use any large language models on top of the current Tesla robotics capabilities, and also if so, will Optimus have any kind of personality, and would that be something that the end user might be able to have control over?
Yes to all of those questions. Yes to all. So, like, we're headed for a wild future. I mean, wild, wild, wild. Cars will drive themselves. People will have super helpful humanoid help robots. And yeah, you'll be able to customize the personality, customize the voice. And really kind of the robot will kind of get to know you as well and know your preferences. You won't even have to say things because it'll just kind of understand you. I think it will get to this point where it's like, it'll be odd not to have a robot buddy. Like, sort of not to have your C-3PO and, R2-D2. So, yeah.
Hi, Elon. Max here, huge fan. Thank you for hosting us. I wanted to ask you, how much integration work do you think will be needed to deploy Optimus into different types of factories, industries? Like, would you need technicians or just have them go watch? And how do you foresee that?
Well, I think if you fast forward a few years, it really will be quite a generalized robot. Like, say 2 years from now, like next year like this year it's still quite specific. Task-specific training. So to do a particular task, we have to kind of do a fair bit of training to solve that task. But over time, I think you sort of accumulate these kind of training primitives where, like, calling like walking, for example, is a training primitive. Picking something, identifying an object and grabbing it would be a primitive. And these primitives are then generalized to anything. So you could say pick up a cup, pick up a shirt, fold the shirt. These things will generalize, I think, quite quickly. So I expect probably not next year, but like in 2026, it's really the kind of thing where you could tell it to do kind of a wide range of tasks, including tasks where it has not specifically done that exact thing before, probably in, I'm guessing, 2026. So, sure.
And do you foresee a cheaper version where tasks don't require like walking, for example, or so the hardware will become a lot simpler or cheaper?
Well, we're going to focus on making just a fantastic humanoid robot at scale, and really achieving scale economies in building that humanoid robot. At very high volume, if you're really good at manufacturing, you can get the cost of almost anything down to its constituent elements. Essentially, the weight, and if you just look at the weight of the raw materials times the value of those raw materials, excluding circuit boards, you really can say, like, if it weighs less, it's going to cost less. What I'm saying is that it's better for us to achieve very high volume with Optimus than to have a wide range of robots that have lower volume. Yeah. All right. Hi. There? Okay.
One of the best things about the recertifying of your compensation package was listening to all the positive feedback of current and former employees to what you have contributed to Tesla. In the unfortunate event that you're hit by a car not full self-driving, can you take a few minutes or a few seconds and brag on your board and the rest of your leadership to assure us that even without you, Tesla has an incredible future at $30 trillion?
Well, I think Tesla has a good future without me. I think I'm a helpful accelerant to that future. And for technology, it matters if you're ahead or not ahead a lot. So the rate of, like, what matters is not innovation, but the rate of innovation. Can you do in 1 year what other companies do in 2 years or 3 years? So, like, probably my biggest, most helpful thing is an innovation accelerant. Because given enough time, the various startups that are doing humanoid robots will eventually succeed. One of them will. So what really matters is, can we be much faster than everyone else? Can our product be done a few years ahead before theirs and be better? Because if that's not the case, then they will achieve the valuation and not Tesla. They will make the valuable product, not Tesla. So, that's where I think I'm probably most useful, is accelerating the pace of technology and innovation and getting to scale. That's it mostly. But I am very much heartened by and appreciate the support of current and former Tesla employees, Tesla board, and all you guys for helping out. My heart goes out to you.
Hi, Elon. Jessica, or my name is Jessica, and I have lived full-time RV for about 3 years in South Texas.
Okay.
And I just wanted to thank you for your Starship, or for the Starship program and everything you're doing there. In addition to Tesla.
Do you work at SpaceX or something?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, but you live in an RV in South Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. And in my RV park, they don't allow car camping for Teslas or electric vehicles at all if you're not pulling a trailer. And I feel that there's a huge opportunity there, but also for example, people who are coming into town for Starship launches in Teslas, if they could park somewhere overnight and trickle charge.
Okay.
And maybe have access to, bathroom facility or just something simple like that.
Okay.
Just something I wanted to just put forward because I know that a lot of people come into the park and are disappointed they can't stay. So.
Okay, got it.
Just a thought.
All right. I'll inquire and see if there's maybe some place that would allow people to stay in their cars, which in a Tesla you really can often stay quite comfortably in a car, and charge. All right, thanks. All right, I think so. This will have to be the last question, I think, or maybe last two. Yeah. All right. So last two questions, you and you two guys. And
hey, Elon, my name is Steven. I'm truly thankful for all you've done for humanity, and watching your companies and what you've done has been the most exciting, hope-inspiring movie that there's ever been. So thank you so much. And
thank you.
Thank you. And my question today is about lithium refining. In the past, you stated that would be a limiting factor in the future. And I know Tesla has built the refinery in Texas. I was just kind of curious your current opinion about the refining. Do you think there's enough capacity coming online, or will Tesla need to expand past Texas in that regard?
There's enough lithium refining if you count China. If there's a geopolitical challenge on that front, then there may be a shortage of lithium. But China's very good at refining. So, but I think just Tesla figuring out lithium refining, understanding what it takes, and then, once we understand how it works, then we can scale it up from there. And that, I think it's pretty important to, be careful with geopolitical risk, and just make sure that if in a worst case situation, that Tesla is okay. All right, thank you. This is the last question.
Hi, Elon. Thank you. Congratulations for yet another big win. I'm Nikhil. I'm based out of Silicon Valley. And as you mentioned on FSD awareness and giving people rights, because most people, unless they really experience it, they don't quite know how safe it is becoming and how convenient it is becoming. Mm-hmm. So I built TesMe company. It's a platform for Tesla owners to offer learning experiences, FSD. And we would love to explore how we can help scale with your support and guidance. We'd love to have a follow-up conversation to discuss more details with you, how we can work together. Thank you.
I have a suggestion.
Okay, sure.
Valuation to 10 trillion.
Okay.
Can you allow me one?
Sure. Yeah. You really want to ask a question?
Follow-up, please.
I'm not sure how to answer that question exactly, but I mean we are focused on improving FSD for sure, and I think the adoption will be widespread. Like when it is really working insanely well, and it's driving like a 5-star Uber driver, I think adoption will be very, very quick. All right.
Thank you. All right. I indeed have a really good suggestion.
Okay, what's the suggestion? Sure.
I shared this suggestion with one of your FST team, but I don't know whether it reached you or not. Basically, as FST keep on improving, we are not quite sure at what rate it will be improving the march of lines. So so a lot of skepticism remains as to when you can exactly operate the Robotaxi. So it occurred to me that in between supervised FSD and Robotaxi, there is something intermediate stage that's commercializable, which is what I would call a robot rental car. Okay, the idea is that you would people would go to your platform to order a rental car, and you would deliver that overnight to the front of their driveway, and then so the only time that that car will be driving without a person is at night with nobody, and you can take as long as you want, and you drop in the front of the car, and after that it's supervised. So that will get you to a commercialization much sooner, much more guaranteed. So that's my suggestion.
All right. Well, I appreciate the thought. I think, like I said, the progress in FSD will be really amazing. You'll see with each successive version. Like I said, the best way to think of FSD, ignore the 12, just think of the point number. We're going from version 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, and you'll see just radical improvements with each successive version. And I mean, if the current trend continues, it's going to be like, you'll really find that you don't intervene in the course of a year type of thing. So even in complex situations. Anyway, with that, thank you very much for your support. So thanks, guys. All right.